We had a comment in the chat said, finally someone that has it right, Caleb over RJ. Well, let's get to RJ. Let's get to round 2 of my rankings. And in fairness, I have Caleb and RJ in the same tier as in Superflex. Pick 13, RJ Harvey, the Broncos' new running back. Everyone's very excited because Sean Payton took him probably 2 rounds earlier than he had to and really got his guy. Number 14 in the rankings, Jackson Dart. We've talked plenty about him. 15 is Jaden Higgins. 16, and this is where I would say there's another tier starting. We've got Jack Besh with the Raiders now, Trey Harris with the Chargers now, Jalen Milroe for the Seahawks, Tyler Warren for the Colts, Cam Scattaboo, we just talked about him on the Giants, Harold Fannin, yes, I know I'm the only person in the universe with him in round 2. At pick 9 in round 2, then Dylan Sampson, who joins Judkins on the Browns, Ollie Gordon, who was drafted by the Dolphins, and Jalen Noel for the Texans. I did like the fact that Higgins and Noel, teammates at Iowa State, end up teammates in Houston. So round 2 in my rankings, Harvey, Dart, Higgins, Besh, Harris, Milroe, Warren, Scattaboo, Fannin, Sampson, Gordon, Noel. What are your first thoughts, Dan?
My first thoughts are this is a lot like how I see this playing out in round 2 for me. I'll say a few players I might be higher or lower on. Trey Harris is a player I absolutely love. I love the fit and I love the player. Obviously, this is going to happen sometimes, Heath. When I watch so much Jackson Dart tape, I'm going to see more of Harris than maybe some other receivers. But he reminds me of somebody who is so much better than the athletic testing shows. When you watch him in space, understand angles and how to create more yards after contact, that goes to show that's in addition to all his route running, all his ability at the top of the break, which is the most impressive, I think, among the most impressive among receivers in this class, not Travis Hunter level, obviously. I think with that team, they see something in him that they saw in Ladd, which is that ability to get in and out of his breaks and create separation. And with Justin Herbert, that's the perfect kind of receiver you want. I understand, look, guys like Quentin Johnston, and Palmer, those are not my favorite type of receivers for Herbert. I want the guys getting in and out of their breaks so Herbert can anticipate and throw that ball with the velocity he does. So I love Trey Harris. I don't know if I would rank him too much higher. I definitely have him over Besh. I might have him over Higgins, and I probably have him over Dart. Other thing that stands out about this round is Dylan Sampson. Look, I love the talent. I don't know if I understand the path fully here for a lot of reasons. And it's one of the reasons I'm down on Judkins. I think this Browns offense is going to be trash for a long time. I trust Stefanski, and their O-line's got some pieces, but it's aging. But I don't trust the quarterback situation there at all, no matter who ends up playing for them at quarterback. And if that doesn't fix itself soon, and I don't know when it would, I guess maybe next year if they can get luck, if Arch Manning comes out or something like that, I don't know if I want to buy into players on this offense long term. So I guess that one would stand out to me. And then the last one is Milroe. Look, I talked about him with you pre-draft, I believe. I'm definitely high on his fantasy upside. I don't like the spot, and I'll tell you why. It's not that I'm that worried about Sam Darnold long-term. It's that when you draft a player at quarterback that late, 93, the history is just not that you're looking at them for sure to be a starter or to get a lot of, so if a team came up and got him like the Saints got Shuck at 40, like that was the pick, I'm okay with this ranking. But given what I now see his career trajectory from a start standpoint being, it's a little iffy to me when I'm passing on players I really like Scattaboo, Warren, Noel, who I really love. Even Gordon I like a little bit, even though the fit isn't as good. So I don't know. That's the only one. Those are the big standouts for me.
I think it's a really difficult thing, and it's probably more of a luxury pick. It's probably better if you feel like you don't have any holes, because if Jalen Milroe, man, I don't know why I can't say his name today, but Jalen Milroe can play quarterback in the NFL. Holy cow, the lottery ticket you just cashed.
You just
in
won
round
your
2
league.
of a rookie. Yeah, you hit them. Everything is awesome. Now, so let's talk about the guy who's right behind him, because you said you really like Tyler Warren. I was a little bit skeptical, and I expressed this before the draft about the fact that we didn't really see that much production until he was older than most of the players he was playing against. I was a little bit skeptical that Penn State schemed him up so much, and would he go to a place that's going to scheme him up as much as they did, and could he win in just a regular offensive tight end role?
Sure.
Now, I actually still kind of like the Colts offensive game plan. but they don't have the quarterbacks to do what they want to do. Whether Anthony Richardson is quarterback or Daniel Jones is quarterback, they might throw 100 fewer passes than the Bears do this year. And he's got Josh Downs and Michael Pittman, who, no matter what you think about them, they earn targets.
Right.
And so that's why he falls all the way to 19. I had him at 12 in my pre-draft rankings, but he went 14th overall, Dan. It's fantastic for a tight end. Am I holding his landing spot against him too much?
I think so, because I actually like the landing spot from a schematic standpoint. I don't like it from the quarterback standpoint. And I'm big on penalizing draft picks for quarterbacks. And I've been burned on that. Some of my startups, I drafted Tyreek Hill a few years ago and ended up being okay. But like, because I was like, oh, I'll have him tied to Mahomes for his career. This is unreal. Like, this is the best player in fantasy. Nope. He gets traded a year later. So things change in the NFL. But the reason I like the landing spot, besides not liking the quarterbacks, is I feel like watching him at Penn State and how they used him, I feel like when you're Steichen and you're thinking about drafting a player like this and how you're going to use him, you're thinking about, well, let me think about my quarterbacks, Anthony Richardson, Daniel Jones. They are not traditional quarterbacks who are very good at dropping back and processing the defense. Daniel Jones, for sure, is one of the worst I've ever seen at that. Richardson, I can't speak to as much. I haven't seen as much of his tape, but I think that's part of the problem. So a player like Warren, I'm thinking like, well, if I'm Steichen, I'm like, let me rewatch that 2022 Giants tape when Daniel Jones had his only good season. It was a lot of bootleg. It was a lot of dump down on slides to the tight end, slide routes to the tight end, a lot of that like easy action layup type throws that we can design for the quarterback. So it's like, what's my solution for a quarterback who can't process defenses in a traditional way? Get him easy solutions in the passing game. Tyler Warren, I think, can be lined up in a variety of different roles, in line, in the slot, and as an H-back for easy solutions for the quarterback off of play action. And that's what I think is going to happen with him. So I have the bullish case of he's mostly their whole offense, not in a similar way to Bowers last year, but different, because Bowers is running like real intermediate routes and stuff like that. Warren, to me, will be more of around the line of scrimmage type stuff. But regardless, for PPR, I don't care if it's 8 to 9 touches a game. I don't care how he gets them. And that's my bull case for him. I think they'll have a plan for him, and it fits what these quarterbacks can do.
So I know you would take Warren ahead of Milroe. What about Harris?
Okay. No, I love Trey Harris, so no.
What about Jack Bish?
Yes.
Jaden Higgins?
Yes.
Jackson Dart?
Yes.
So you would be around 15 for him. Yes. I didn't have an RJ Harvey question, but I think enough people are talking about him, and enough people are talking about him as a round one pick that we should at least discuss. People got a little more excited about the Sean Payton thing than I did. And partially it's because I don't think I have the same level of trust with Sean Payton that others do. I don't necessarily know exactly what role he's going to play. They'll use multiple running backs, and he's going to be one of them early on, at least, as long as he doesn't do something that upsets Sean Payton. But the value in that offense for a running back is being the guy who gets targeted a bunch and is on the field on passing downs a bunch. You think Harvey is that guy day one in this offense?
That's a great question. Day one. I think he can be that guy. Whether it's day one or not, I'm not sold on, but I would lean toward yes, given that depth chart and what they have there, mostly because I just think he views him as a player that he needs to have on the field because he's so electric and explosive. I am on the other side of it. I have a lot of trust in Sean Payton. What I really like about Payton, when I was watching some Bo Nix last year, it's the designs in the run game. Like, I remember this from the days like way back when Sean Payton was the Giants offensive coordinator with Kerry Collins in the 2000s when I was growing up. The way he designed that run game for Tiki Barber, it was so phenomenal. And I feel like Harvey is not Tiki Barber, but I see similarities in how they get in and out of cuts and their explosiveness to find that crease and just go. And so if you're Sean Payton, you can design swing routes for him. You can design screens. You can design different ways for him to find that space, find his crease, and go. So I'm very bullish on Harvey. He was, again, the player I liked the most in this position from a value standpoint pre-draft, him or Scadaboo. So it's just hard for me to come down off of this. And I will say this, Dave Richard did like a study 2 years ago when, or I think that was it 2 years ago? Yeah, when Sean Payton was traded by the Saints to the Broncos to be their head coach. And he looked back at like Sean Payton's entire career from a fantasy standpoint at running back position. And there were so many times, Heath, where he had 2 running backs performing at a top 12 RB level. So it's not like reason I like it so much is I don't think he needs a workhorse role to really be effective in fantasy. I just think running backs in this scheme work.
Except for the last 2 years.
And then that has been the case. You're right. He finally came to that study was only up through his time. But to be fair about his last 2 years, he's had Javonte Williams, who's just totally shot, I think, after the injuries, and like a few other players that people like McLaughlin. Like, are they really that good? Like Estime, now he has RJ Harvey. That's a different level talent, I think.
And that's probably the question that I have the most is how do we like RJ Harvey? I kind of thought was like a round 4 running back, which is not somebody that I'm saying is a difference maker. And then Sean Payton takes him early in round 2. And so now do we say, oh, he's got round 2 talent?
Yeah.
Or did Sean Payton just take him earlier than anyone else would?
So I never believed him to be a round 4 talent, personally. Okay. I believed him to be round 2, 3 talent.
Okay. So you were just a little higher on him beforehand. I was a little higher on Dylan Sampson. I know Jacob Gibbs was as well. Gibbs basically just buried Sampson, it looked like to me, in the rankings after this happened. Yep. I guess my question is, if you're not necessarily a big believer in Judkins and you were a big believer in Sampson, what's to say that Sampson couldn't just be better than Judkins? I don't think that's going to happen. That's why I've got Judkins higher. But I did like Sampson also.
Well, no, I still want to be clear. I like Judkins' tape, and I liked his profile way more than Sampson.
Okay.
But I do like Sampson a lot from a talent standpoint. I think that gap isn't as far as maybe some might seem or think, but it's draft capital, Heath. We know how these teams work when it comes to the capital. When you're going to use that kind of capital at running back like they used on Judkins, there's a clear vision in mind. There's a role in mind. And then what does that leave left for Sampson? To me, it doesn't leave much. So how does that become fantasy relevant? Well, he's such a good player and he's such a freak athlete and such an explosive player that he needs to get some snaps. So he gets his 8 to 10 and they're good snaps. On that offense, with my projection for that offense moving forward, it's not where I want to be. I don't want to be investing in Browns RB2s that probably don't even have like a 1A, 1B type upside.
So I'm just looking at it now that they were dead last in scoring last year.
Yeah.
So they're probably not going to be worse than that. I think 32nd is the floor. So 308 rush attempts for the running backs, it looks like. So very, very pass heavy. And you saw 43 targets, 65 targets, 76, about 100 targets in this offense. I don't think Judkins is probably going to be heavily used on those passing downs. So are we looking at a 250 to 50 split in rushing attempts? Are we looking at 225 to 75? And then if there's 100 targets available, could Dylan Sampson be in that Jerome Ford role and be a guy who earns 60, 70 targets?
Maybe. I don't really foresee it. I think he has receiving upside, but I don't think we saw it yet on his tape.
And then you said you liked Ollie Gordon. I liked the fact that he landed in Miami with kind of a clear opportunity to be the number 2 to Achane. And if Achane's down, maybe the starter for the Dolphins. Is that kind of how you see Gordon?
That's definitely how I see him. And he's an interesting player because the Giants had a pre-draft visit, so I watched a lot of his tape. He was a much better player, first of all, in 2023 than 2024. I think he might have been playing hurt or just the Oklahoma State defense was so bad that he was in such bad game script his entire 2024 season. That's part of it. But he is somebody who at one point in 2023 was in the Heisman mix because he absolutely dominated with 2,300 total yards and 24 touchdowns. Rare players in this class that do that. That's Scattaboo. That's him. That's Genty. There's only a few players that have those kind of production numbers. And when you watch it, you can see why. To me, he reminds me a little bit of watching DeMarco Murray back in the day. That style runner, high runner, doesn't get low, but is good at just gliding in and out of his cuts and finding those creases. And should play with a little bit more power, but has flashes of like, wow, look at that stiff arm. He's a big dude and he can at some point play with power. It's a different kind of back than I'm used to Miami drafting with Jalen Wright and Devin Achane. What does that tell me? It tells me that McDaniel sees this and sees a role. McDaniel sees this and sees a role for him. I don't know where that role will be in year 1, but I like it a little bit more long-term, like you said.